'Cause there's mermaids in the ocean floor.
That's okay.
Watching the people scream. That's okay. Ocean pressure pressing down on Ariel. She's my mermaid wife. I love her. You're an asshole for judging me for marrying a mermaid. We call it a mermage when we get married.
That's okay.
Welcome to ScapeChatz. This is episode 44. I'm Alan, and I'm joined by Dr. Jason Fletcher, professor of human alien studies at Stanford University, but he also goes by Magellan if you're nasty. This week, we watched season 4, episodes 16 and 17 of Farscape, Bringing Home the Beacon and A Constellation of Doubt. Bringing Home the Beacon was written by Carlton Eastlake, directed by Rowan Woods, and it aired February 7th, 2003, in the U.S. It's girls' night, and we're out to party. I love this episode.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, it's, especially compared to Constellation, it's not as, like, intellectually thrilling, but as a written episode of television, I thought it was kind of brilliant. Because it uses its A and B plots really well. Like, the A plot being, we need to get onto this abandoned Leviathan ship and get some part from Moya so that it can she can clone herself. And then the B plot, which ends up becoming more interesting, is this whole, like, there are peacekeepers here, we need to get rid of them. And also politics are happening. Like delicious space politics are happening. So yummy. So I'm curious, like, what did you think in general?
I thought it was pretty dope, because we've been clamoring for an episode that wasn't driven by John Crichton the whole time, that had some ladies doing stuff where they're talking about stuff that isn't dudes.
Very Bechdel test passing.
And we got it for the first, 35 minutes or so. It was great.
Yeah.
And then the end of it was, still a pretty good episode of Farscape.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It went somewhere also, which was nice. It wasn't just it wasn't just the classic, the ladies go out on an adventure, even though we joke about that. It's it is a little bit of that, and that's why that's kind of the Chiana and Aranti plot, and then it also goes into, we are setting up the end of the season. It's exciting.
Yeah. It's not that episode of X-Men Evolution where all the female X-Men get a van for the day. I love
that episode. It's the best episode of X-Men Evolution, dude.
It's like they're actually moving the plot forward, the world plot forward in the most substantial way that has happened.
Yeah.
Since, I'm talking just the politics plot, because the wormhole plot has been kind of rolling a little bit. But the whole Greyza peacekeeper scaring stuff has been sitting on the back burner for a little while. So it was cool to see that move, because I didn't think that it would.
I always try to keep notes on what happens in the previously on, and the only thing I remember from the previously on was the whole Greyza and then Braca stuff. So I actually got excited because I thought that meant that we're going to see the Braca plot, in terms of him with Scorpius. I thought that was going to go somewhere. It kind of didn't.
Yeah, they showed the clip of I wish I was more diligent about
the previous
making sure that I rewinded to the previous one. But this one, since I watched first on Netflix, I saw it on watched first on a service,
website, a
streaming service.
Yep. Please cut that
out. Just one long bleep.
Yep.
Yeah, they showed that scene where he was like, Braca, do a good thing. Be my friend, and you're the best one. And then Braca's like, yes, sir, I'm the best one.
Smooch.
So I agree that I thought I was going to see Braca be the best one and mess with Greyza a little bit. He didn't do that at all. The highlight for Braca in this episode was when the Scaran guy did heat in his face.
Oh, yeah.
And he just went oh
no! It's so good. And then he's just semi-unconscious for a little while. My face. I really like the comedy of the moment when the girls free them, but they still have them in chains, and they're trying to carry them around, and he's like, I recommend you do this. And they're like, shut up, Braca. We don't need your input.
Yeah.
It's very Braca. But yeah, it's because the on the Leviathan plot, I keep wanting to call it On Planet, but I really liked that choice. to have it on a dead Leviathan.
I didn't.
Why is that?
Well, it's a cool idea, except that it's very transparent. Like, we don't want to make fully new sets for this episode.
Right.
But that's okay because they used the Moya sets in a way that was still new. Like they're doing the deal in the pilot's den of this dead Leviathan is a really cool set piece. Yeah. And Aaron and Sokozu are spying on them. They're moving through the halls a little bit. So they use the Leviathan sets that they already have to great effect. But to me, it was very clear that it was because they only wanted to make like one outside area.
Right.
And didn't want to make a ton of inside stuff.
And that's in the background info. It's like, oh, we're going to make a whole set, but then it was way too much time and money, so we went through like this instead.
Yeah.
And they don't use the idea of it being a dead Leviathan for any particular like purpose. It's just a place. It's just a setting. It's not like it being a dead Leviathan means anything in the context of the episode at all.
No.
It's just a place where black market dealings happen, which is exciting. So Chiana and Naranti go on this brief little adventure where I was really weirded out by the scene where Chiana is at the like masseuse parlor, and that was really creepy because the whole thing is those people can like do genetic mods.
Yeah, so let's talk about just the like main sequence of events that happens to the women of Moya on this planet. First of all, first scene, which I found very funny, was the dude sitting on Moya like, they're late, and then you realize that there isn't a tight dude squad on this ship because it's like John, Dargo, and then Scorpius and Rigel.
It's just people who kind of hate each other.
They're a really awkward foursome. They're like, oh, they're late. And then we go to where they are. They're going to this dead Leviathan because they want to fix up this sensor module or whatever it's called to project a deceptive hologram.
Yeah.
So that Moya can kind of hide. So they get there, and then they're asking around, like, we need to see this guy. And then they talk to a skeevy guy, and they're like, we need to see this guy. And he's like, let me get you a table. And then they're like, what about, what's the thing that he says?
He says like, I'm gonna get you some drink tokens or whatever. He does do that.
I'm gonna look up the transcript because just this guy is the worst. And also translator microbes, he uses like
ding, ding, ding.
puns and stuff.
Oh yeah, you're right.
And it's like, how does that work?
How do I can pull up the transcript as well. I'm also cool.
I'm gonna search for the word sensual because I know that
that'll find it. I found it. Wow, my phone is faster than your computer. He says sensual consorters. Is that the part you're talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. She says, not unless you have a discount on sensor distorters. And he goes, sensual consorters? Is that some sort of pleasure toy? Shut up, dude.
Well, and then the next line.
Oh, yeah.
Sokozu says, look, I know you have to check... She says, look, I know you have to check this out. That's your job. That's fine. But now that you know that I know what I'm talking about, I suggest you start taking us seriously. And then he's like, I'd love to take you seriously.
Oh, that line, yep. That line's delivered decently. It's just, he's like so slimy. He's just, ugh.
Yeah, it's fun to see how, working from the perspective of an all-female group of protagonists, subtly changes the way that you interpret, like, shitty men aliens.
Yeah.
Because normally, like, if this was John and Dargo talking to this guy, he would just be weird.
Yeah.
And kind of, like, annoying.
Yeah.
But now it's like, ugh. You've got an extra layer of, I don't like you.
Yeah, yeah. It makes all of the men worse. Because they're bringing out the worst in them.
Right. And then they pass his test, and he like gets his boss out there, who just sidesteps into frame.
Yep. He's like, I was here all along. How you doing?
And also has the craziest hair.
He looks like Logan, Wolverine, in like the 90s. Remember he had like the cool pointy hair?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, but even more so. Or like Will Ferrell in Zoolander, like just
that's it. That's the one. Yeah.
It's got like pointy puff hair.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say it was kind of a mix of Wolverine, Professor X, and like Arcade, or some like crazy kind of supervillain.
Yeah.
That has like crazy hair.
Yeah. That's his whole thing. And they're just two dudes who are like, oh, we are going to make you... They do that stupid thing where they're like, it costs $15,000. I don't know if I hate or love scenes like that. Where someone sets out like what's it called? Like what's it like when you go to an auction? Bidding, bidding. Yeah. Where someone like says a price and then someone's like, no, lower, and then someone else does something sassy and they like triple the price.
Yeah.
Like like Chiana like kisses him and then he's like, nope, 30,000. You're like, and then Aaron says 16,000, but we also give you something. Oh, no, 16,000, you have to do it soon or something like that. Because they said it was going to be 4 arns, which, no.
But it does take them 4 arns.
Right.
Yeah.
To get that thingy-majig. And they do it, which is weird, that this episode ends with them getting the thing they wanted.
Yeah, like, those guys weren't... They were just shitty guys, but they weren't bad guys.
They just wanted a lot of money and some boobs.
So that gets set up. Aaron tells Chiana to go follow them. Then Greza and some peacekeepers show up. Oh, shoot, here they are. Naranti go find Chiana and tell her what's going on.
So that's when the split happens.
Yeah, so let's talk about Chiana and Naranti.
Yes.
First.
Girls' night. Sorry, I just like saying that. They're at... Well, the massage parlor is cool, real briefly. Chiana's there. And it's cool because the first person... Well, she goes in, she's like, I could use a massage, I guess. But she's really trying to get information. The first person that does it to her is, like, cartoonishly, like, exaggerating all of her feminine features. Like, she has, like, triple-length eyelashes and, like, extra-long nails and, like, you know, like, booby armor. And you're like, wow, this is just what women look like in Farscape. Like, this is dumb. And then she transforms, and it's like, now you're, like, a buff dude. And you're like, oh, they have transformy powers. And that's kind of their whole thing, is they can... The massage thing is, like, a side job, but their real thing is they do genetic mods.
Yeah. And that's vaguely introduced at the beginning of the episode and then smoothed out and explained a little more. Because Chiana loses track of these guys. Like,
yes.
They go around a corner and then she loses them, and it's probably because they genetically changed.
Yeah.
But also they weren't doing anything wrong, so why did they hide from her?
Right.
Whatever.
So they could take her money and leave, I guess?
Yeah, but they made the thing.
They did make... Yeah, I don't know. I think because they got found, I don't know.
Maybe they just wanted to be alone.
Yeah, they're like, all right, go away while we work. Don't touch it. And then I do like that part where the people who run the genetic modification plant or whatever are like, hey, they buy a different personality, a different face, and they buy confidentiality.
Yep.
So
that's the whole point of doing this.
Right. So we probably know where they are, but we can't tell you. That's what we did. And so she is getting massaged. And then the cartoonishly feminine person turns into a giant dude. And it's like, you're like, oh, she's going to get a nice massage. Nope.
I'm going to pinch the little nerve on your back that paralyzes you.
Why do Nabari, who are all about sex and about, like, physical contact, and that's their whole thing, and they have a kill point,
yeah, basically. Like a very easy to put pressure on nerve that paralyzes
from the neck down. Yeah. It's like,
God.
That's so dumb. And then Chiana's she, like, handles it very well. She's like, how long am I paralyzed? Is this permanent? Lady's like, yeah, I can be. She's like, no, please, no.
Yeah, so that happens to Chiana. Then they let her go. Naranti catches up to her and is like, oh, the Greys here. We're in big trouble.
In Little China.
And then, thank you. Then they are going to run away. They see some peacekeepers and they say, let's get some genetic mods. And then what should have happened is a montage followed by them stepping out to rock you like a hurricane in their new outfits.
That's what should have happened. That's in an unrealized reality. That's what happened. But what happened is their mods are really dumb, dude.
They are. They're dumb.
I was excited because I thought it was going to be like, one of them was going to be like a turtle person and the other one's going to be like a cricket. Mm-hmm. And it's like, no, they're just... Chiana has red hair and blue skin instead of gray skin. And Naranti has different hair.
And like bigger ears,
Yeah. And they're cool lesbian girlfriends.
Yeah. Their costumes were kind of silly, but they get to a point where they're undercover, and then Braca comes around, and he's looking for a Nabari girl, because they hear reports that there's a Nabari girl. He's asking everybody, he says, have you seen a Nabari girl? And Chiana dodges him. It's a pretty fun exchange. I can actually...
I was going to say, I was exactly looking that up. There's a couple... Because, they're like at a bar and they're just hanging out next to the bar, and Braca like tries to do a DNA scan on Chiana, but it doesn't work because that's the other thing, is you can break a DNA scan with this cool power. Chiana did look very cool in the like red hair, blue skin situation. Good contrast or whatever, but it's her. Like, it's so obviously her. That's why I'm like, Braca, you dum-dum. Although there is background info suggesting that it was way different. I shouldn't have read the background info for this episode, by the way. I'm so mad at myself.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah. But it was like, they made it so different that no one recognized her, and so they made it to look more like her. And I'm like, oh.
For the sake of the viewers.
And the people that were on set were like, wait, who am I looking at? You know?
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was very strange.
Anyway, so they have this exchange where Braca's like, have you seen a Nabari female? And he's interrogating them. Then Chiana has this line of, hands off. I'm not on the market. Besides, I don't even like men. And then she and Naranti do this really fun undercover thing where they're like pre-kissing.
Yep.
And Naranti's line, she goes, I don't need drugs. I've got true love. You don't need drugs if you've got true love.
Yeah, exactly. That was one of the lines I wrote down. You don't need drugs if you got true love.
Yeah, and then Naranti says, Braca says, yeah, have you seen a Dabari female? Naranti says, why, I wouldn't know one if it bit me on the prang, though that could be fun.
I don't want to know what the prang is.
Yeah.
Nita, though. Yeah, they both buy into that little scene a lot, and very, very well.
Mm-hmm. And then Braca leaves, and they're still kind of like really into it.
They're like still doing it. They're like, this is kind of, you want to just like hang out?
Yeah.
Like, this is a great pairing. This is another good Whedon test.
Yeah.
Like, these are the two people who love to perform and be weird.
Yep.
And it's just been weird together.
Yep.
I totally thought they were just gonna like just kiss for fun. Like, we're here.
Yeah, and it speaks to something that I think I said a few episodes ago. Where it's like it's a lot more fun seeing characters get along than seeing them disagree, because characters get along in different ways,
right?
But people all disagree in the
same ways. Exactly. Yes.
And yeah, like Chiana couldn't have done this kind of weird, sexy undercover thing with anybody else,
right?
Except Naranti.
If it was Aaron, it would be too much like straight guy, funny guy, which I would also watch. That
would also be fun, yeah.
But it would be different. Whereas this, it's like funny guy, crazy guy.
Mm-hmm. Then Chiana and Naranti come back, and Sikozu and Aaron recognize them immediately. Yeah, which makes you wonder how and why, and
why did the other people not recognize them?
Yeah, because then they go back to the pod, and the guys take Chiana hostage because that she's not Chiana.
They kiss her, and he says they didn't transform her tongue.
Yeah, cool, great,
yuck. And they capture her. She's like bound to falling in love. Honey. Being in person makes everything about this podcast so much more easy and fun. Except being consistent.
Yeah, I think that's the extent of...
Yeah.
And then there's like a throwaway thing where Chan and Dargo are near each other, and Dargo's like smelling her, and it's like, oh...
That's at the end.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Just getting all the Chiana and Naranti stuff out of the way.
He's like, you smell different, and she's like, do you like it better or worse?
Yeah, he's like, I prefer the elegant gray.
Dargo's there's probably a word for that if your fetish is just smells. Smellerific. Yay! In-person jokes. But we also, we should talk about the other plot of the episode, the more interesting, big one.
Let's dig right on in.
It's me digging. That's the noise you make when you dig.
Yeah, you eat dirt.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's some political goings on, and Aaron and Sikozu? Nicholas. Nixon.
Playing Sikozu.
I don't want to be a Scaran. Sorry. I am not a Scaran spy. Oh, jeez. They're like hiding from Greza and the other one, and their comms are broken, so that's why the plots are able to split, is they just go like, peacekeepers can block comms.
Yep.
Sure.
Cool.
And they see Greza talking to Chesney Lazar, who is a Scaran woman, who I don't actually remember her name, but she is...
something, I don't know.
She's like a higher up Scaran. And they have a political dealing that basically says, hey, we could be in a war real quick. But what if I gave you some assets? For example, how about I give you all of the Luxon planets? Whoa.
Uh-oh.
But you have to give me That's so weird. It's like you have to give me everything in the uncharted... past a certain point in the uncharted territories. And the lady's like, why would I do that? And she's like, because the Luxon population they're like super rich and like resource useful. And they're all good laborers. Good strong men over there in the Luxon world. And so they're about to go through with that deal. And things start to get complicated because Sikozu and Aaron are trying to stage an assassination on Greza.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also more Scarans. There's like a big buff Scaran boy. And then...
The Scaran lady's name, by the way, is Akna.
Akna! I love Scaran names. It's always like two-syllable Baba.
Played by Francesca Buller.
Hey!
Her daughter's wife, her final appearance.
My wife. Is she in the movie?
My wife.
Wow.
My wife.
Is she in my wife?
She's in the movie, yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Good. I'm glad.
My wife.
My wife. Oh, goodness. So they're trying to make this deal, and then Aaron's like, we gotta kill Greza. It's like, wow, bold.
It's pretty extreme.
Yeah, but if it works, it works. She's kind of saying, like, well, this is the opportunity to do it. If we're going to do it, we should do it.
Yeah, and this is a really interesting debate that's happening here. Yeah. Because Aaron confronts Grayza about it later when Grayza and Brekka are imprisoned.
Yeah.
Because we should say that the deal goes south.
Yeah.
Akna has her Scaran boy kill all the peacekeepers and then take them hostage. Mm-hmm. And she's like, we can beat you in a war. We don't care. Haha. We're going to take you and, like, interrogate you and stuff.
Yeah.
Figure out. Because they want to know about the wormhole stuff.
Yes.
Right now, the peacekeepers are keeping the peace with the lie that they have wormhole technology.
Yes.
Scarens are starting to doubt it, so they want to see if that's really the case.
So we're going to interrogate Grayza.
Yeah.
They take her somewhere special.
Mm-hmm.
Here's where I was a little bit confused.
Yeah.
This is about, like, where the episode goes in terms of that plot. Because there's also a moment where, like, Aaron and Gianna go and get Grayza.
I'm a little confused too. Let me just close out the philosophical debate that's happening here. So Aaron and Grayza, or not Aaron and Grayza, Grayza and Brekka are trapped. Then Aaron and everybody else infiltrates whatever's going on and gets to the point where they can free them. And Aaron's like, I should kill you for trying to make that deal. Grayza says, well, if you kill me, then I can't repudiate the deal.
Yep.
But I still stand by it. I think it's a good deal.
Real good deal. Real good men out there. It's very Trump.
So the question is, the question is, like, which side do you fall on?
Right.
Because it's true to a certain extent that this deal would keep the peace. Presumably, if it went through.
Yeah.
It makes sense that it would keep things safe.
Yeah.
Everybody gets a little bit of what they want, and we're there. We're chill.
Right.
But on the other hand, I think where Aaron's coming from is it's a betrayal of the Luxon people, maybe.
Yeah, you've been peaceful with them for so long, so you're giving them all up for a resource.
But then there's a question of, like, how much of this is motivated by Aaron still having some sort of patriotic ties to being a peacekeeper in a Sebation.
Right.
And seeing this as a betrayal of the peacekeepers.
Yeah.
That's my open question.
That is an important question to ask and to consider when it comes to Aaron and what she does in this episode. I'm more talking about the plot implications of what's revealed at the end of the episode. The two things that have major big things.
Yeah.
But your thing is going to be...
let's have the political discussion first, and then let's move to the plot discussion.
Yeah. I think that is going to be developed.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, because we need to know where that deal is going to go. I mean, realistically, the movie's called Peacekeeper Wars. The deal's going to go south and they're going to go to war. Like, whoops.
Probably. Okay.
We know how that goes.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot going on with how Aaron is responding to Grayza's stuff. And she's not John in this situation, because John would just be like, you're both bad. Like, he's learned that they're both bad. But Aaron, like, clearly still has a little bit of stake in the game.
Yeah.
Being formerly a peacekeeper and all of that. I think it's really interesting. And the idea of, like, the Luxon peacekeeper peace between those two races is super compelling. And it's like, oh, I didn't even know that was a relationship that was going on. And that changes the way that I thought about Aaron and Dargo's relationship. It's like, oh, my people worked with your people a decent amount.
They have a mutual defense pact against the Scarens. So they, like, hate each other, but then...
They hate the Scarens more.
Yeah, if the Scarens come along, then we're going to work together to fight them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think there's a moment somewhere where someone is like, if you break the pact with the Luxons, they're going to go to war with all of you. Or like, and then it's like, no, the Luxons could never beat the Scarens.
Alone,
they would get smushed. As we also see later when Aaron tries to fight two Scarens single-handedly. And that goes somewhere. I love that stuff though, of like these, I always like when we found out that Rigel and his what are they called, the Hynerians, have like a counter race that they're always in war with. Like I love that, like, racial politics stuff.
So I guess I just kind of want us to think about, not necessarily right now discuss it, but going forward, what is the cost of peace? What is the cost of war? That kind of broad question. Of what is the greater good that we're striving for here?
What's the end game for any of these people?
Yeah, because John says it in this episode, or in the second episode.
Which time?
He has this whole thing about, like, I don't care. I've never cared. Like, if the peacekeepers rule the Scarens, if the Scaren rules the peacekeepers, that means nothing to me.
Right.
What I care about is the people that I love, basically.
Yeah.
Specifically Aaron. He talks about that in... I don't remember. Which episode does he go to Scorpius in? It's the second one. It's at the end of the second one. It's at
the end of the second one, yeah. The last scene of the second one.
So there's that. And then I'm pulling in some stuff from Constellation of Doubt, but it ties in. there's also a part where Naranti's talking about, like, the fact that killing at times is justified.
Yeah.
So that's a big open question.
Yeah. And I also think that in some way, how they handle that conflict is going to split the crew a little bit. Like, different people are going to view it differently. Because John doesn't care. Some other people clearly have stake in the game and, in various ways. And think about killing it and war differently. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your plot confusion. What's going on there?
It's revealed at the end of the episode that there are at least 2 synthoids. Synthoids? Bioloids.
Bioloids.
In our midst. One is, so Aaron goes to fight the 2 Scarens.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, Sikozu says, she's dead. I killed her. Definitely dead. 100% dead.
Sikozu killed Aaron?
No, Sikozu thinks that Aaron's dead because she said, I let her go and defend us instead of me. Because Aaron said I can do it. Yeah, she feels guilty about it, and she says I might as well have killed her. Aaron comes back 2 seconds later, and oh wait, cool.
Yeah, runs into the pod like I'm good.
Hey, all right, let's go. Yeah. And you're like, great. And then she comes back to the base, and John is looking at her, and he starts to suspect that something is not right. And he says, "Where's the beacon?" Because what we're realizing is, even though we just cloaked, we starbursted,
yeah,
we immediately are now being tracked again by the same ship. They already know where we are again. How did they find that out? There's a beacon on the ship.
It's not in the pod,
and they have that.
It's not the sensor thing.
They have that awesome build up where it's like someone should scan Sikozu. It's not her. Someone should scan Chiana or Naranti. Not them.
Yeah.
And it's like they're like scanning everyone. It's like real quick, like the Thing kind of moment where it's like, who is it? Who is it? Who is it? And then I was thinking it was like going to be inside of Aaron, like real Aaron.
Yeah.
Like it was like in the baby or something. Because John keeps saying, who's the baby? What's the baby? Where's the baby?
Yeah.
Who's the beacon? Where's the beacon? He starts mixing up. He just like goes like nuts with those like free association.
Yep.
Like, beacon, baby, beacon. And then Aaron, he's like, just say baby. He has like that really intense moment. She doesn't say it. She doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yep.
Pulls out a gun and shoots her in the face.
Mm-hmm.
It's not Aaron.
No.
They brought a bioloid onto the ship and it had a beacon in its temple. A bioloid is a thing that Scarens can make, I guess, or like peacekeepers. And it's like a synthoid human robot.
I think it's a Scaren thing.
Yeah. So they put a fake Aaron on the ship. So where's the real Aaron?
Katratzi.
I love that word so much. But so that makes sense, because then he goes, oh no, I feel bad that I shot Aaron, which, shut up, John. I know it's like...
Well, it looked like her.
Yeah.
Like, imagine if you shot me in the face right now, and half my face came off, and there was like a weird glowing, beating thing inside, and it's like, okay, it hasn't been Magellan.
As soon as you said, imagine it was me, I was like, no! And he loves her. I mean, I love you, but like in a different way, I guess. Anyways, it's also revealed that, like, is Grayza a bioloid?
No, I don't think so. I don't remember that.
There was something about, like, Grayza's been being used as a puppet by the Scarens to spy on the Peacekeepers.
Really?
Yeah.
Who said that?
I don't remember, but I thought I read it in the wiki. Can we confirm this somewhere?
Oh, in the, like, background spoiler part?
Oh, is that a huge spoiler that we don't know yet?
There is a bioloid-related spoiler in the background info.
Oh, but it's not that. Okay.
I don't think it has to do with Grayza, no. It has to do with somebody else. If you forgot it already... That's good.
I remember the other thing, unfortunately.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't remember something about Grayza being a puppet, but I'm going to pull it up right now. Okay. Okay, so it seems like from a skim of the wiki, the intention of the Scarens was to make a bioloid version of Grayza and institute it into her positions, that they could interrogate Grayza, but nobody would come looking for her.
And they could use the bioloid Grayza to
do stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's what the big, like, sarcophagus thing she was in was for.
Yeah.
So then I'm kind of confused if cloning Aaron was an accident or if they did it on purpose. I guess they did it on purpose.
Right.
That makes sense. So now they have Aaron. Basically, the big takeaway that we want to know here is that the Scarens have the technology to make organic robot clones of people.
Kind of scary.
Yeah.
Any of us, because it immediately puts the finger on anyone.
I mean, welcome to Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, exactly. True. Was this before? Did this predate that?
Yeah. Well, not the original show.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of the scene where Aaron gets shot in the face, there's another part where John is talking to Dargo, and he goes, Dargo, tell her who her daddy is. And I was like, did you just call back the best line of the series? Like, what?
Yep.
And then he says, nobody knows who the dad... Because he's talking about the baby. So nobody knows who the daddy is. And I'm like, Dargo! Whoa, this is weird. I think that was intentional.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it was very cool. But yeah, that's the reveal at the end. And then they find out, like, oh, there's something called Katratzi, and we need to get Aaron.
Katratzi.
Aaron in peril, although it bums me out because it's like, Aaron's great. Mm-hmm. It's like, it hurts more than anyone else being in peril.
Yeah.
because she's so much of an emotional core. I say that all the time. She's so important to the heart of the show that losing her immediately puts everybody on edge, and it puts them on, like, attack mode.
Yep, but she's been imperiled so much this season, especially.
It's starting to lose its weight.
It is really annoying.
So I think they realize that it's a good idea, and they're just overdoing it. Because it's like, who else could you put in peril that everyone else would be like, oh, we gotta go get, like, I guess Dargo?
Right, well, so this is the issue with the way that the show is structured, and it's not bad to have a show that has a protagonist, like one main character.
Yeah.
That's not a like categorically bad thing.
Yeah.
It's just, it bugs me that the protagonist has to be the white guy.
Yeah.
Like, hey, viewers, you're all gonna be white guys.
Yeah.
I'm the white guy. But this move makes the most sense to motivate John Crichton to move the plot forward.
Right, because he didn't have a lot of motivation right now.
Well, because, I mean, he said before, like, in whatever stupid, dumb episode where they kissed, whatever episode that was, that I'm now forgetting. He's like, I only care about you, Aaron.
Yeah.
Like, that's the whole deal.
Yeah. He doesn't care about the conflict that's happening and building up. And so now he has to, because they have her. So that works.
Yeah, so it works as a device. It's just unfortunate that we have 35 concentrated minutes of really cool. Not only are all the heroes ladies teaming up, but also the two main villains are like ladies.
Yeah.
For 35 minutes, and then the last 10 or 15 are like, okay, so how does this affect the men?
Yeah. How does John worry about this? What does he need to do? And the transition is actually funny because this is just a brief thing I noticed. When they went back to the men, the first thing they were doing was like drinking tea. They're just like, we're waiting for them to come back. How you doing? It was like Rigel and John and Dargo were like sitting on a table just like chilling. Yeah. And the girls come back and they're like, yay, things to do. Oh wait, now it's our plot time. Come on.
Yeah.
It's interesting though. I'm curious because putting Aaron in peril one last time is a good way to like get us to the end game. Because we need end game at this point.
Yeah. I mean, it does definitely feel like this is the final chapter. Yeah. Let's kick it into gear.
Especially the next episode. Yeah. But yeah.
And my hope is that we're going to see some scenes from Aaron's perspective. Like, it's not going to be that she's just pulled out of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a lot like in Knights of the Old Republic when Bastila Shan is captured. And it's like, no, she's the coolest one.
I put all my points into her.
Now I have to do a whole planet without Bastila.
Jolie Bindo, that guy's got no points and he's useless.
And then she shows up and she's like kind of evil. Yeah. It's like, ooh.
But if I'm evil, then that's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Someone should make a montage of every time we mention KOTOR.
Yeah.
And Mass Effect. Bring up both.
Both, please.
Yes, please. Thank you. So I guess that's bringing home the beacon. They did bring home a beacon.
Yeah. One last thing I wanted to say. Yeah. Sokozu I thought was really fun in this episode. Yeah. She like had stuff to do. She knew stuff that other people didn't know. She had her own opinions. I think she got along with people. It was great. Probably the best we've seen Sokozu. Yeah. She wore the vest that wasn't a weird like boob strap shirt. Yep. She had her cool weird the twisty kind of thing going
I like
on.
that. It's cool.
Yeah, I like that.
Very 2000s.
Yeah. Very 2000s and very, very like, this is a different
your edgy haircut. Yeah. In an MMO, it would be called the edgy haircut.
And then I really liked the visual effect of the camera thing that they were using to watch from afar.
Yeah.
It was like zooming things in and going in and out of focus. I thought that was a cool effect.
They've used effects like that before, like camera zooms. Binocular zooms, I mean.
Yeah.
And it picked up a little bit of audio, too. These are the technological things that we pick up here on ScapeChatz. It's a good time. You know what else is a good time, John?
Well, most of the background info this week.
So, hey, folks, just a heads up.
If this is your first watch of the show, don't read the background info for this episode, please. Because there's a bit of a spoiler.
Yeah.
And we've said that this wiki, the Farscape Encyclopedia Project, has been pretty good about that stuff in the past. Because...
early on, we got minor spoilers, though.
Yeah, little spoilers. I guess there are a few that you kind of have to watch for, but they're usually pretty vague about it. Whereas when we were watching Buffy, the Buffy wiki is notorious. It's like, Xander...
This character will go on to lose an eye. You're like, damn it.
He ate a mayonnaise sandwich in another episode where he had sex with this character.
Yeah.
It's like, ugh, why did you tell me that? Big fact for no reason.
They shouldn't assume that everyone has watched every episode in a wiki.
Right. Well, there's two arguments. Because on the one hand, maybe, but on the other hand, don't you want to know all the information that ties together and have it written
Somebody
down
wants that.
This foreshadows that.
They should do what, this is random, but there's I think it's called the Tower of Joy. It's a Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones wiki, basically, that you can filter by what you've read and what you've watched.
Yeah.
So every sentence is filtered by, like, you should only see this sentence, and you won't see it if you haven't watched season 6 of the show and read book 6.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, or even just spoiler text of, like...
Yeah, or just hover over text.
Yeah. Whatever. Anyway, so I'm going to read it, but I'm going to telegraph when I'm reading the spoiler. Yeah. Because we've both read it at this point. Okay, background info for this episode. The title was suggested by director Rowan Woods. He won the bottle of whiskey that goes to the namer of each episode. That's cool.
That's a great thing.
That's really fun.
That's expensive.
Yeah.
Every episode.
Francesca Buller's outfit was created by Lou Elsey, including thigh-high boots with 2-inch stiletto heels that were purchased from Sydney's House of Fetish. Fun. That kind of makes sense.
It does, absolutely.
I mean, from the moment we saw Scorpius, that was our interpretation of those costumes.
Bonded zombie. Yeah. I think I said that at some point.
Yeah, but I think so too. Buller based her performance part on Kate Blanchett's performance as Queen Elizabeth I in Elizabeth, and Alice Krieg's performance as the Borg Queen in Star Trek First Contact.
97.
Yeah, I liked her performance a lot.
Yeah.
I liked her, like, cheekbone bedazzling, too.
Yeah. That's a very complex, like, the Scarens are so cool, man.
Yeah, they are. I'm excited to see that character again.
Yeah, totally.
Rebecca Riggs enjoyed being able to rehearse scenes with Buller, but neither recognized each other that evening once out of makeup. That's funny.
Is Rebecca Riggs Naranti?
No, Rebecca Riggs is Grayza.
Oh, who's... People at home know what I'm talking about. Who's the lady from Game of Thrones who's the actress? Diane Riggs? John doesn't know what I'm talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's a Riggs on Game of Thrones. Anyways. Great, buddies.
The original plan was for the episode to be set on a relaxation planet, but production constraints forced it to be set on a dead Leviathan. Tim Ferrier redressed all of Moya's sets.
Yeah, the relaxation planet makes more sense with the masseuse and the genetic mod stuff.
Yeah.
That works better.
But they did a cool, like, kind of criminal twist on it.
Yeah.
Which definitely. I liked.
Black market.
Yeah. Gigi Edgley's original altered makeup was so extreme that no one on set recognized her. That's what you were talking about before.
Yep.
That was kind of like that thing of when Jorpius was happening.
Oh, and they couldn't recognize that it was different?
Yeah. They couldn't recognize John Crichton in the makeup.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah. Ben Browder.
You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
Same guy. The inner workings of bioloid Aaron were created using tripe, the insides of animals, for a more organic look. Dave Elsey recalls that Woods kept asking for more.
More tripe! Ew.
Yeah.
But cool. Is this the big one? Oh, no. Yes?
Yep.
Okay.
This is the big one.
Okay, folks. Hey, listen up. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so hey, listen up. If you do not want to be spoiled on a future reveal of this show, presumably later in the show, not in Peacekeeper Wars, that would be really unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
Do not listen to the next, 30 seconds.
Skip ahead, a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this is it's like a big thing. And
yeah.
If you don't want to be spoiled like we didn't want to, then don't read the background info and don't listen to this part.
All right, skip now. Though Rayleigh Hill already knew that Sikozu was some form of artificial life, she didn't know she was also a bioloid until the end of the day when Crichton shoots bioloid Aaron.
Neither did I. Now I keep thinking about it every time I watch the show.
This episode features the first appearance of bioloids, which would come into play during the We're So Screwed trilogy.
That's probably when we're going to find out.
Yeah.
The thing that we just talked about. What?
Yeah, so Sunish.
Sunish, my favorite Farscape character. What a weird villain. And what a weird episode that we just watched. You want to talk about another one?
Yeah.
But hold on.
What?
Now hold on a sec.
What's up, bud?
I have to talk to the viewers of the show and the listeners to our podcast. I always get those mixed up. It's time for the... Moyabag is what I was going to say there, had this part not cut off. Anyways, bye. Hello, everyone. This is Alan here for the Moyabag for episode 44 of ScapeChatz. I feel like I haven't done one of these in a while. It's realistically probably been 2 episodes, and our schedule is kind of off, but I'm here, and I'm very excited to read the feedback. We got one memo this week from regular commenter on Twitter who says regarding Twice Shy, I only watched this for the ships, twice. The pacing bothered me a lot. It would have been better if it was just a character drama without the spider thing. I miss the full-on character dramas. You and me both. Lonnie Tupu is indigenous New Zealand or something. He might be part indigenous and part Samoan, but there's that. Well, I think the point that we were making with that comment was that he is still the only person of color that was on the main Team Moya. But anyways, Chiana is a cool pansexual calzone. Thank you for latching on to my dumb way of mixing words together to sound funny. Shout out to all my pansexual listeners out there. I get your metatextual stuff. I had never thought about it before that deeply, but I agree with everything you said, and I remembered it also bothering me. I think that's regarding how we said that the spider's power is that she's able to take people's like character trait in the grand scheme of things and twist that. And we talk about metatext a lot on this show just because I find that stuff super duper interesting, and it's always a good thing to analyze when you're talking about television, like how the creators are trying to take the tropes of the genre, because we're deep enough into serialized television at this point that not everything is just textual, you know? Metatext is also very important when trying to criticize stuff like this. Omen's also surprised that I'm just now noticing that John always has little one-liners after killing things. I guess I have noticed that before, but this one in particular from Twice Shy was pretty silly. In regards to John and Aaron, don't frill me, Farscape, to which she says, same. Sikozu's costume is all about boobs, which is what we said, and then Omen says, and that's a bad thing? Like, yeah, but also, nice. And, regarding mental as anything, no, just no. The plot is thin, and the characters are flat, and even the setting and costumes don't do it for me. Plus, unnecessary John Scorpy crap. It could have been a Season 2 episode that I maybe could have enjoyed, but now it's just bad. And no ladies, which makes me less likely to enjoy it. Again, it should have been a character drama with no conflict. Moving on to say that the RPG comparison is very, very apt. We both come from a background of playing a lot of video games, and like RPGs specifically. And so that's where our constant Mass Effect and KOTOR, like side missions, main missions, that whole like structural formalist thing comes from. I didn't rewatch it, I didn't like it, but I really, really like your interpretation and appreciation of Mental as Anything. Thank you, Omens, that's really, really nice. We also got tagged in a big tweet that was like someone showing off a Dargo action figure, and then Anthony Simcoe tweeted it out and said, to have played a character that had its own action figure was an absolute highlight of my acting career. And a lot of people mentioned us and said, you brought so much to that role, best show ever, best character ever, etc., etc. And then, so we have another Anthony Simcoe fave of our mentions, which was nice. I love you, Anthony Simcoe, you're the best. Then the Farscape Friday podcast also started following us. Kay and Taz, y'all are our favorite. I'm gonna go ahead and say it just because I don't talk to any of the other Farscape co-hosts podcasts. What am I trying to say? The other Farscape podcasts. They're all fine, but I really like the Farscape Friday podcast, and y'all are great, and you're gonna be going much longer than we are, so people should listen to them after. If you want more Farscape podcasts after we're done, then you should totally listen to them, and the other ones, you know. ScapeCast, Frillcast is probably fine. Any other one that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head. But that was Twitter, and moving on to our deep Reddit thread this week, over on reddit.com/r/Farscape, user What Was That with the top comment, now that we are deep into Season 4, I hope I can ask this question without any answers requiring spoilers. It's about the frustratingly meandering first part of the season. I can enjoy almost all the episodes individually, but taken together, they do a disservice to the series. It seems that all the important setup and foreshadowing in episodes 1 to 10 could have been condensed into 4 or 5 episodes, and if so, would have resulted in a stronger launch, even if there was an expectation of a Season 5. Going that long without focus seems out of character for the show. And then that was them kind of posing the question to the other people in the thread, being like, why does everybody think that the beginning of Season 4 was filled with so much filler? And Johnny Fogg was talking about how the shooting day kept getting pushed further and further back. They kept getting renewed at the last moment. Season 4 wasn't even definite. By that point, actors were unavailable and scripts were being rewritten. Add to all this that Crichton Kicks was, as I understand, according to them, a second pilot demanded by the network. That's really interesting. The idea was to slowly reintroduce the crew to new viewers. Tough sledding. Even if relationships with sci-fi hadn't broken down, I don't think the show could have sustained itself for too long. And then Blue Blaze Spear says, at the end of every season, Farscape had this monkey on its back. Its numbers were decent for the Sci-Fi Channel, but they weren't great. And it was expensive. It was always contending with Stargate SG-1, which always seemed to do a little bit better and didn't cost quite as much per episode. Studio execs could be forgiven for scratching their heads and asking why they should keep Farscape in the face of that math. This stuff really makes me frustrated, by the way, to hear the breakdown of why this show collapses in its back half because of the network. It's hard to say what things happen within the creative process, especially when business gets mixed in, but by the end of the 3rd season, Sci-Fi decided that Farscape's brand was worth something even though it wasn't their flagship. They went ahead and picked the show up for 2 more seasons instead of 1, but it seemed like there was a price tag attached. By all accounts, the show started getting downright crazy network notes because it seemed to be the case that if Sci-Fi was going to invest in the show, they could have a hand in what it was doing. By now, and this is the most interesting part of all of these comments, by now everyone has heard about the studio notes. Things like, make the show more sexy, sure. Make the show less serialized, sure. And the classic, make it more like South Park, which is bananas to me to hear that the network had notes like that. And if someone could corroborate that and tell me where that comes from, I'd be really interested. Because I do think that there's elements of the early parts of season 4 that feel like they're trying to go for too much slapstick and weirdness and not enough substance. Blue Blaze goes on, nobody's ever stated explicitly one way or the other, but my suspicion has always been that much of the beginning of Season 4 is the result of Farscape trying to incorporate the ridiculous studio notes, and that the second half is when the Sci-Fi execs decided to pull out of the 5th season and stopped with the notes, only to drop the bomb later on, the makers of Farscape, that the show wouldn't be back for a 5th season. I don't think we would have gotten the 4th season that we got if A, the people making the show knew that it would be the last one, and B, they weren't contending with notes. I think there would have been more urgency to get the story moving and to get it wrapped up, and less time spent treading water and jumping through hoops for the people putting the show on TV. That's just their opinion. And there's some other comments back and forth here. Trelana says there's only a couple of Farscape episodes that I have trouble remembering, and one of them is Twice Shy, the other is a Prefect Murder. Not to say I didn't enjoy it, I do. I enjoy every episode of Farscape, but I generally do forget about it. Hot Decor was replying to something that the two of us said when we said how it's frustrating sometimes to see that the one character who comes on the show who is black is othered by the fact that her skin color is like that, and then she is just the villain. And they're saying, I think you're not doing the show justice here. Talika is a weird alien spider with mind-altering powers. I don't think her skin color is supposed to make her seem alien. My interpretation was that the alien is able to project any appearance it wants to, so it chooses to look like a harmless girl. I replied in the comments here, I don't think that that's what we were trying to say. I think what we were trying to get at is that we finally get a more diverse cast coming on this show, and people of different backgrounds and different appearances, and the show immediately just throws them in the role of generic villain. Like, I would have loved to see a person of color as a major character, someone on the crew, or a villain. As we see in the upcoming episodes, there's a lot of villains for them to fill in with diverse people, and they're all just costumed characters. And it's like, we finally get another humanoid, and they're just really a spider person. We were not saying that the fact that she was black made her the villain. We were saying that we finally got a black person, and they were yet another boring villain. And that's not so fun. But thank you for that comment. I really did appreciate that criticism, because we do, if you ever record a podcast like this, you can stumble on your words live and not realize that you're saying something a little bit awkward. And then Leo Chris says, thanks for getting Peter Frampton stuck in my head, presumably for the rest of the week. And then Blue Blaze is like, I thought that he died or something, which was our entire point. I'll just say that to pull the curtain back. Magellan was like, I'm going to put Peter Frampton in and do like a fake memorial, and then people are going to Google him, find out he isn't dead, and then go, yay, he's alive. So I'm really happy that that worked out the way it did. And then finally, the Direct to Us Blue Blaze Spear comment of the week. Twice Shy is another one of those episodes that could have hit all the important beats in 10 minutes. It manages to touch on beats of characters without saying anything thoughtful or meaningful. The only scene with any bite is John and Aaron's at the end, and while it was a necessary one, it came later than what makes sense, and John's reasoning is, as you pointed out, dubious. Mental as anything is odd in that it has a lot of interesting ingredients that turn out to not make a good dish. The Dargo Macton stuff gave us plenty to chew on, but why bring it up now? The idea that they want to train their minds to combat Scarens is interesting, but it's not explored in a compelling way, and I don't get why the women couldn't benefit from the training too, but I can let that one go since it gave us bringing home the beacon. It's hard to say how these revelations changed my view of Dargo because I incorporated them into my picture of him years ago, and it's hard to remember when I knew him and didn't know this aspect of him. But I can speculate somewhat and just say that he was too perfect of a character before this episode. We're almost wandering into Marty Stew territory. If people at home don't know, Marty Stew is essentially the male equivalent of the Mary Sue trope, in that it is a character without flaws who's constantly put against sort of like negativity and then comes out scot-free and never seems to have any blame or problems placed on them. He was just a man of action who was perfectly nice and moral and who had all these bad things happen to him. The stuff about his wife puts dirt on the character and grounds him a bit, I think. We learned that he has a flaw and that it's a terrible one. It's tricky, because while I don't think of the character as a typical wife beater, and that's Blue Blaze's words here, we still have to contend with the fact that there was a time when he was capable of such terrible things, even if they were out of his control. I'm paraphrasing here, so I might accidentally snip out some context, but Allen seemed to be suggesting that it was odd that the show was just starting to consider wrapping up arcs. I just want to point out a reminder that everybody in the show at this point thought that there would be another 22-episode season after this one, so any real closure they were looking to have with characters would have probably come in the theoretical 5th season. So nobody would have felt pressure at this point to be wrapping up those arcs. That's a good point. And then they talk about Mass Effect and Dragon Age, and I kind of went back and forth with them in the comments if you want to check those out there. Basically, the main thing that they were talking about was that we were comparing Scorpius to the character of Saren Arterius from the first Mass Effect game, specifically how you spend a lot of time hearing about him and hearing about how he's a horrible person, and then when you meet him, he's like, he's just a dude, like he's a character, he's a villain, and you fight him in that game at some point. He doesn't become a party member, I guess, the way that Scorpius does, but you definitely hear a lot of people talking about like mercenaries that were hired by Saren and space piracy and the weaponry to make his weapons, or the research to make his weapons rather. And it all helps paint a picture of why the character is powerful and scary, similar to Scorpius. One thing that happens here with Scorpius is that we learn that he has these outside assets like Katoya, or like from last season, a large sum of money in a shadow depository. In both cases, these are nice little touches. That's a very good point, Blue Blaze, and I'm appreciative that you wrote that. I'm looking forward to the next episode because it'll have the wonderful Bring Home the Beacon and one of my favorites, Constellation of Doubt, which is the episode that's been mentioned that doesn't have a conflict-driven A-plot. I can see how others might not be a fan of it. This is actually the episode that you were talking about, I guess. Cool to know that a Constellation of Doubt is the one that people cite as like a conflictless episode, because it is a very good point. There is no like, we need to get something, although they have to end the episode by being like, here's a revelation, but the episode isn't existing to serve that revelation. It's existing just to explore Earth and how they reacted to the aliens after Kansas and terra firma. That's it for the comments this week, folks. We did the Reddit comments, we did the Twitter. No emails this week, although you can send emails to ScapeChatz@gmail.com. We do plugs at the end, so I'll let you hear those when they come. We have a guest on next week, and then we have one on the week after that. So I would say right now we don't really have any more spots to guest on episodes of discussion for the podcast, but if you ever want to just like send in a clip for our like finale recap or something that's like, hey, here's why I was really into Farscape, you can go ahead and do that. Just send us some MP3s to ScapeChatz@gmail.com on your best microphone, and we'll try to include those eventually at some point, because at this point, like I said, we've had so many wonderful guests and we filled out the schedule with them. And just to, again, pull back the curtain briefly, I'm recording this the day that this episode goes up, which is Sunday the 30th. So happy Halloween tomorrow, folks. And on the day this comes out, we're recording number 46 with another guest. And we're going to try and watch and record 47 before Farscape goes off of Netflix on November 5th. So with all of that in mind, thank you for listening and enjoy our discussion of A Constellation of Doubt. And we're back. This week, we also watched Season 4, Episode 17, A Constellation of Doubt, which was written by David Kemper, directed by Andrew Prouse, and it aired on Valentine's Day 2003 in the US. Wowentine's Day, if you will. It's actually what I have in my notes here. No, it's not. Get these notes out of here. This episode was like a sequel to another episode, which was a sequel to another episode. It's a part 3, if you will.
In many ways, it was the sequel to every episode which came before.
One could say that. I'm Terry Gross, and this is NPR. The harder you... NPR was produced by a live studio.
I like that, but I also like the idea of a show being produced by a live studio.
That's what I'm saying,
Yeah, like they've been watching all of these sitcoms, and they're like, it's our turn to make the show we want.
Just turn the camera right around.
It's going to have Terry Gross. Yep. It's going to have a guitar theme song.
It's going to have an announcer talking over the theme song as it fades out.
That's all we know.
That's kind of it, and then you guys do it, really, right?
Yeah.
No, this episode is it's a Constellation of Doubt, and it's a sequel to Terra Firma, kind of. What I think is interesting about A Constellation of Doubt specifically is that the plot on the ship, nothing happens concretely other than the reveal at the end, similar to the last episode. Mm-hmm. But what I mean is, like, no one goes anywhere, there's no fighting, and in general, this episode, it's combat free, it's all about talking, which is where Farscape is at its best. Because the framing device is awesome. It's basically, I would just call it like a PBS documentary kind of thing. That's the vibe that I got out of it.
Yeah, basically.
With the like corny music in the background. It's kind of like almost the final countdown.
Well, it's kind of PBS, but then it has that vibe of like a bad History Channel show, like Ancient Aliens.
Yeah.
Or kind of, there are other like crime expose TV documentaries. So it has that sort of trashy network/cable vibe.
It's very, the trashy is a good word for it. Like, it's like what is that called? Like a rag kind of magazine, like a National Enquirer, where it's just like, are aliens bad? But then it becomes more of like an investigative journalism piece and kind of like using the footage from that one boy.
Yeah. Sorry, Bobby, that we didn't think you were going to be important.
We spent 5 minutes talking about how you are an archetype of a character that we don't like, and then talked about vines, and it turns out, no, you were actually like the key to the humans understanding aliens. Yeah. Sorry, Bobby. You're still stupid as hell, man. So...
I will say, his acting was like... It was kid acting.
Yeah,
whatever.
but it was good for kid acting. Good enough.
Yeah, good enough. But then, I'm guessing he was really holding the camera.
Oh, you think so?
Well, in some of those scenes. Because there were some scenes where it like when he's sitting with Dargo in
that's exactly what I'm
ship,
thinking. Yeah.
There's a handoff of the camera. So maybe the kid's not holding the camera all the time. But whenever he is, he's making it look the way it's supposed to. As if like a kid did a bad job.
Yeah, it's very shaky.
And like out of focus and framed poorly.
Yeah.
All of that stuff worked and looked like it was actually what it was supposed to be.
I think on the, not within the show level, but on the real, like how they made it level, they just filmed that, like the cinematographer, and then dubbed in his lines. And I think they were talking at someone else.
Probably, yeah.
Because it sounds too crisp. It doesn't sound like it's someone, like when someone's behind the camera, it sounds different. But this sounded like he was having a conversation with the person next to him.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But I agree though, the like directorial touches are actually really clever. Mm-hmm. But real briefly, just to set up the framing device, the idea is that they don't really set it up actually that much. They're just like, hey, somehow Moya intercepted a VHS tape of this television special that aired on Earth at some point.
Moya intercepted the signal, and then maybe it was recorded somehow or something.
Because they rewind it and fast forward it like it's a VHS tape.
Yeah, I think what happened is Moya caught the signal and then they recorded it somehow.
That makes sense. Because the background info, I gotta stop reading the background info, is like, hey, they don't explain why it makes sense that Moya, like, where did she find it? Because they're not near the wormhole anymore, the Earth wormhole.
Right, that part doesn't make sense. And then also translator microbes thing, how does it make sense if they're showing footage of aliens talking, if the people of Earth don't have translator microbes? This is an open question. Also,
it also points out, how do any of the humans understand the aliens if they didn't get translator microbes?
Right.
Why were they able to talk to like regular people?
Maybe all of Earth has been like the one cool thing is translator microbes, and we're going to use those. But
that'd be so good.
Yeah, but I don't think that happened.
Yeah. Or at least they don't talk to a lot of people other than Bobby. So maybe it's just like Bobby got translators and that's it.
Yeah, probably.
But anyways, it's hosted by, what's that guy's name? He has a great name. It's like R. Griffin Stewart.
Yeah, it involves those words.
R. Robert Morrow or something like that. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of amazing names. That's where I got your intro from, was one of the doctor names. Yep. Basically the show is like, here's footage that Bobby recorded on his dumb camcorder while the aliens were on Earth for longer than we thought, which is interesting, because they point out at one point that they went to some of them went to South America.
Yeah, well, I think we knew, but we just hadn't internalized that they'd been there for a few months.
Yeah. Like they'd seen seasons pass at least, and they'd been to other places.
I want to talk about the commentators for a little bit because they were so fun.
Yeah, lots of good cameos. Also, fun fact.
The one thing that I didn't love about the previous episode, or maybe I did like it, I don't know, it was just different, was it was very serious.
Yeah.
Even with the like Chiana and Naranzi having different costumes thing, it was very serious throughout.
Yeah.
And that kind of makes sense because it was written by the guy who wrote Icarus Abides and Daedalus Demands.
Yep.
Which are both heavy and huge episodes.
Yeah.
But this one, artfully is weaving in not just like silliness, but kind of haunting satire and absurdity into like kind of scary stuff, like existentially scary ideas. And these commentators, every one of them is great. because a lot of them have that vibe of, you watch talking heads on a historical documentary and they're really excited, like, this is huge. Yeah. This is a big watershed moment, as big as whatever, blah, blah, blah. The sociologists are just, crapping themselves. They're saying, like, this is as major as when the meteorite hit the dinosaurs. Right. Whoa, 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 whoa. And then there's some people who are like, I'm a bishop and I don't like this
against the church.
Yeah. She's too sexy for boys. Yeah.
She's trying to proposition a 13-year-old. That's horrible. Mm-hmm. And then, like, Olivia's like, stop. She, has that, like, fourth wall, like, no, come on, you idiots. But a lot of them had a lot of dimensionality to them, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, it was great to bring back those same commentators through different characters.
Yeah.
And develop all of these different perspectives on the aliens.
Right.
Because you really get... the other thing that's great about this is such elaborate attention to character, because the way this episode is paced is not in terms of, like, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, blah, blah, blah. It kind of is. It kind of has those sort of act break moments.
Right.
But really, it's about case studies of each character on Moya and what Earthlings thought of them.
Yeah.
And different angles of what Earthlings thought.
Good and bad from every angle. Yeah. Because they do, all of them were, like, weirdly interesting in fleshing out the characters in ways that I didn't even consider. Mm-hmm. Which we're going to talk about, because one of the last things that the commentators speak about is, like, what the aliens in general made them think about themselves.
Yeah.
Because we've got really cynical commentators like Dr. Garrett Hamilton, he's the one who's, like, the kind of, like, short, wiry guy who's like, oh, they're terrible, and, like, this is, like, they're threatening us whenever they tell us stuff like, Dargo says, my ship could probably destroy all of you if I wanted to.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's clearly a threat. He's playing mind games with us. And it's like, that guy's really interesting, but he kind of, like, comes on to them in different ways, like, starts to enjoy them. I was telling you earlier that I wanted to, like, hold which one was my favorite commentator. It's the sociologist that you were talking about, the one who's
with
happy,
the glasses, yeah.
The one who's, like, balding and he's happy about everything. Mm-hmm. He's just like, they're great. They're awesome. They're teaching us so much about ourselves.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
Who's talking about how, like,
Dr. Jason Fletcher, if people are curious.
Yeah, who says that one of the aliens says that humans are, like, very hopeful.
Yeah. And he's like, they get us better than we do.
Yeah.
I love that guy. Because that's really cool. That's what I want the humans to react with.
Yeah. We were talking before we recorded about something that is really fascinating and kind of scary about how this episode's perspective is. It's not doing what happens sometimes in sci-fi where perfect aliens will come down to Earth and be like, we have peace and you guys have war, and if you stopped having war, then you'd be in space and you'd be amazing. Instead, it's saying not only is your technology not special, but the fact that you're doing war with yourself is also not special
at all.
We're all doing war, but we were able to get over it and do war with other species instead of ourselves.
Whereas y'all haven't found enough other species yet to do it, so you just still infight like idiots.
So it's cool because it has this lens that lets us see the hypocrisy of humans, but also it lets us see the hypocrisy of the aliens on Moya as well.
Right.
Like that moment where Naranti, I'm thinking about this one a lot.
Yeah.
And I mentioned it earlier, where Naranti's talking about religion and saying that it's hypocritical that religion at times condemns violence, like on the whole condemns violence, but then at sometimes religion is used as a justification for committing acts of violence. And her response to that is saying, you can't say both. Killing is fine sometimes, but you can't, like, condemn it through religion. But then that seems kind of
counter to what the people on Moya think sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. And then it raises the question of, like, what's your moral code and when do you decide when it's okay to kill?
Well, she clearly doesn't take that hard stance. Like, she, like, thinks about it and she's like, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say that killing is okay.
Sometimes.
But, sometimes when justified. Because when I hear scenes like that, like when I see aliens tell humans, like, oh, you guys are dumb for this reason, mm-hmm. That to me is exciting in the universe of, like, wow, I would love for a higher being to tell me what's right and wrong. That's partly why I'm, like, fairly religious, is, like, I believe in that idea. But at the same time, I can zoom out and realize that is the creator telling me what they think.
Sure.
And then, like, you're kind of like, oh, I guess the creators of Farscape think that humans are dumb in a funny way.
Yeah.
We kind of are. But it's not just, like, it's not a higher being. It's a person writing a higher being or a more intelligent person.
Well, it's not even higher. It's just an outside perspective.
Which is what that guy talks about. He's like, they know us better than we do because we know we're hopeful, but doesn't it feel nice to be validated by another species telling you, hey, y'all are really hopeful and go-getters?
Yeah, well, I love what he says about that. I think we should just find his quote since we're talking about it.
Right.
Yeah, so Fletcher actually has a few quotes that I just want to read all of them. Or not all of them, but a few of them.
Uh-huh.
So the one we were just talking about, he says, "Listen to what she's saying about us. Humans never give up." Now, for that to become impressed upon an alien mind, this simple fact that we would tend to take for granted ourselves becomes validation that we eventually will fit in, never give up. That's really cool. Thinking about like, you know what? We don't have the technology, but there's still something about humanity that can be contributed to galactic society.
We have something to give.
Yeah, even though the aliens don't necessarily think that we do.
Right.
Other things that he says about what we were just talking about. He says, "Mr. Anti is not wrong that we have a history and culture of killing that we continually attempt to wallpaper with justifications and platitudes. I see nothing wrong with what she's saying."
Yeah. He's just like, yeah, I kind of get it.
Yep.
Like,
This one I really like. Dargo, there's a scene where Dargo's looking out on the water and saying that he's absorbing beauty.
Yeah.
And Bobby's like, "You like Earth?" And Dargo's like, "Yeah, it's pretty cool." He says that it reminds me of my own planet about 10,000 cycles ago. It was meant to be undisciplined and adventurous.
This is like my favorite line of the episode.
Fletcher says, "Imagine. Think of how we view ourselves. A sophisticated culture, growing, evolving. Then look at how he views us. Undisciplined and adventurous. As time goes on, I predict we'll be forced to realign every concept by which we judge ourselves."
So good.
It's really good, yeah.
And that scene is actually in the sort of segment of the program that also features. It's basically about like, hey, they're just like us. It's the "they're just like us" segment instead of the profiles of each person segment.
Yeah.
Because it also features the most intense scene. It also features the most intense scene in the episode, which is Chiana being the most human that she's ever been and nursing a dead rat.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
She's like sitting in the yard and crying, and she's holding. And then Bobby says, "Is that a dead rat?" And she's like, "Yep, it was my friend. I loved it. It left to get food. It's fine. It's fine," or something. Like she like starts repeating herself, and it's like really sad. That's some amazing acting. There's actually really incredible trivia in the background about the acting, especially from her in this episode. She brought a lot to it. She had a lot to give, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, that when you were saying the most intense scene, I was actually thinking of the lipstick scene.
Oh yeah, well, okay, that's the other
something about that scene was like really intense to me.
She's eating a lipstick.
She's eating the lipstick, and she's kind of like, what's this for? It goes on your lips. And then she's like eating it, and then being like, do men of your species put this on? And Bobby's like, well, some of it, whatever, like stupid joke. But he's like a preteen, so whatever. Mm. And then she kind of goes into the bathroom and is talking about how it's like, how many things do you need water to come out of? It's totally fine. Like you can just wash yourself in the toilet.
Yeah.
And then she starts doing that, and then Bobby's like, ew. And then she pauses and she looks into the camera and is like, what are you looking at?
Yeah.
Like, so sad.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, because on Moya, John watching this is affecting everybody else in the crew because they're forced to think about the fact that I think Chiana even says like nobody likes us there.
Yeah. They're constantly like, it seemed like they like us, but according to this documentary, a lot of them
they didn't like us.
Nope.
Yeah. And then Chiana, I think, is talking to Rigel, and she says, "Oh, Naranti gave me this powder to help John fall asleep. Should I go find him?" And Rigel says, "No, give it to me.
give me the good stuff." Yeah.
I need to drug myself to fall asleep because I just can't take this.
That, oh my god, that scene is really tender. Mm-hmm. And I haven't seen a lot of good Chiana and Rigel scenes in a while, but that was like, there was something about that felt very real, very like tactile, just like, I need to be out of this. This is affecting me. This is hurting a lot. I need to just go knock out in whatever way possible. And it gives Naranti's drugs weight also, because they're just like, oh, Naranti's the weird drug lady, but then the way that they use them is always interesting. Because she also has, that's in the other episode where she like blows it on the guards. Yeah, that was in Bring Home
kill
the Beacon.
Each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like her drugs, like they're cool, they're interesting.
Mm-hmm. And they have dark implications.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As we see a little bit later, with the guy who in Kansas, which we thought was going to be like a dumb, funny episode that didn't really change anything. And we mentioned that guy was institutionalized or supposedly because he went to the police and said, I saw aliens, and nobody believed him. And I said that was frustrating because it felt like they were making a joke out of that character. And I feel like I've seen that trope a million times. Mm-hmm. They brought him back in this episode, kind of in the last segment. They kind of continue to make a joke out of him, but like that's the darkness, that's like the sadness of it.
Yeah, it's tragic.
Yeah.
Because he really did see them and he's not crazy, but the fact that everybody thought he was crazy turned him crazy.
Exactly.
Yep.
It turned him into the joke.
Yeah.
Because he starts and he's like, I totally saw them. And he like kind of descends. And the part that like hurts me is that the host is like kind of mocking him.
Yep.
The host is like, ha ha ha. Oh, you're keep going. What else did you see?
Well, the host is taking this stance of, we know this guy's batshit.
Yeah.
But there are some stuff that the government's not telling us. So, hey, government, tell us stuff. Also, this guy is batshit.
But look at this guy.
Yeah.
The host is he's not trying to be antagonistic to anyone. He's trying to take like a neutral stance, but he always felt to me like he was like a little bit, like, he also didn't like the aliens that much.
Oh, I don't think he cares. I think the point is that he's grandstanding and taking advantage of the situation.
Yeah.
Because you really see that in the clips where he's interviewing Aaron's son. And two moments stick out. One of them is very early on in the episode where he's talking to Aaron about like, would your species go to war with us? And like, what we're scared about is the fact that you look a lot like us, so you could be here already. And then Aaron basically has to say, we don't care about you because you're nothing.
You're not significant.
I guess if we wanted to kill you or enslave you, we could, but we're not going to.
Which he interprets as like, they could do it.
Yeah, like, oh, she's threatening us.
Yeah.
Or he's presenting the show in a way to maybe...
Yeah. He's clearly manipulating the...
And then the other moment is when he's asking about if humans and Sebaceans can reproduce.
Yeah.
Like, could a wink, could a human male impregnate you?
It's like almost Jerry Springer. It's just like, oh, say it when you want to have sex with a human. Waka waka.
Oh, and then we have this clip that Bobby wasn't supposed to film where John's talking to his sister about like how much he loves Aaron's son. Ooh, scandalous. They were lovers. Yeah.
And then, but then there's also discussion of like, there's another good line about like integration. Like, would integration be great for us, or would it be terrifying?
Because on the one hand, the Buddhist guy, who I also liked, is saying that intermarriage between species would be wonderful because it would create bonds of family.
Yeah.
But then there's another intellectual person who says, yeah, but think about the trouble that interracial children go through now, and now imagine that a baby's born with tentacles.
Yeah, interspecies children.
Yeah, interspecies children.
Yeah. It's exponentially worse. Like, you will have no friends at that point, no life, no anything. And that's a clear parallel. Like, this show doesn't constantly do the like aliens equal different people of different races, but there it's like, yeah, this is
they do it.
We're
a lot
saying
here,
the same thing. Yes.
Yeah. I don't want to get too off topic, but I watched some videos today that were of this like Harvard law professor talking about ethics. They were on bigthink.com, like that website where it's just like, here's a video of a smart person saying something smart. And one of them was about abortion, which we don't have to talk about. Like, we don't need to get into a discussion about abortion because that's not what our show's about. But in the context of defining certain terms around that debate. And also there was another video where he's talking about the debate around whether artificial intelligence would be considered as having rights. And this question of rights boils down to three things, right? There's a notion of something being alive. There's a notion of something being a human being. And there's a notion of something being a person. And rights are afforded to people. Is the requirement to be a person that you are a human being?
Interesting.
Is the requirement that you are alive? Because if the requirement is you're alive, then like animals are persons and animals have rights. They have rights. If the requirement is to be a human being, then his argument was like, that's speciest, and it's as bad as people withholding rights on the basis of race, because within the framework of racism as it was formed, that was an equivalent thought. Like, these people are from a faraway land. They're different from us. Therefore, they are not persons as we are.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting question to kind of grapple with, that we see humanity in Farscape right now is grappling with. Of, are we humans, and is our goal to like protect and serve humanity? Or how do we want to think about these aliens, basically? Do we want to be integrated into alien society? Do we want to like shun them and say that they're bad? Yeah, so that's kind of the big question that's going on.
I love these big questions, and I love that the show is asking them, finally. You know, and it's been like subtle before, but now it's just like, hey, here's what this episode is about. It's about these questions, and it's about aliens and humans. Mm-hmm. Which is in a big way, it's sort of a thesis of the show that has been developing over time, is like, what is the difference between aliens and humans?
Mm-hmm.
What changed that made them different from us? And how did their background make them different than us? I find that stuff really
right. And what makes you a person?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I don't think we'd argue that Dargo is a person.
Yeah.
Or that Aaron is a person.
Of course they're people.
But then the question is, what makes them people?
Yeah. Because they have a soul. Like, we know they have a soul if you believe in the concept of a soul, but if you don't, then that gets dicey with, like, AI. Yeah, this is like a big... We could do a whole episode on this. Mm-hmm. Like, we're talking about, like, almost, like, all sorts of stuff. But the episode does bring up these questions, and it does kind of come to this conclusion of, like, I like the way that the television program ends. Because as manipulative as the host was, from the way I understood the ending, it was like, we don't know enough to make a decision right now. Yeah. That's how I understood it. We don't know enough to like, decide how we want to treat these aliens.
I mean, I think it seems like the point of the framing of the show is to elicit both fear and mercy.
Yeah.
Because it will ping pong back and forth between this moment of, they're so sweet, or like they care about real stuff, to... hey, turns out they can also do horrific things. Like, Dargo's hanging out with Bobby, and Bobby's like, what's your tongue do? And Dargo's like, okay, turn the camera off.
Why does he want to get tongued?
Because he's curious how it works, I guess.
Okay.
Bobby's like a stupid kid that wants to know how to kill stuff. Whatever. But that seems like really scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it shows Dargo in like slow motion, like the tongue coming out, like...
And then he walks away and he's like, Naranti.
Yeah. Naranti, can I get some, like, antidote or whatever for my poison, please?
So it ping-pongs back and forth, trying to kind of just take advantage of people and draw in their attention. So it's a great commentary of this kind of entertainment, where it seems like it's investigative, but it's really manipulative and poses broad questions in an irresponsible fashion.
Yeah.
To kind of panic people.
Yeah.
And emotionally charge the situation. And John makes snide comments about, like, oh, he's probably going to get an Emmy for this.
Yeah. Well, that line loops around, though, because when he finds out the information, the grand reveal of him watching the documentary is like, oh, the reason I know the word Katratzi is from the unrealized reality. Mm-hmm. And then he says he's like, that guy deserved an Emmy. Like, I guess. Yeah.
Did you watch the credits?
I did. I wanted to mention them. Yeah. They did like a next time on this thing.
Yeah.
Or the show. Yeah. That was funny. I was going to mention that to you also. Speaking of funny, there's like a couple just brief moments in here that I also liked.
Let's run them down.
Bobby asks to take a picture with Aaron, but it's like a video like he's like, oh, film us together.
Yeah.
And he
he says, shoot me and Aaron. And then the mom's like, yeah, I've been thinking about shooting you.
The mom, or is it
his mom, right?
Oh, that is okay. Here's the thing, and the Doctor Info points this out. Bobby, according to John in Terra Firma, is his cousin. Bobby right now is his nephew. They retconned what Bobby was to John.
There was a confusing line that Bobby said, and I didn't understand what he meant when he said it, so I'm going to find it. Because he, like, explains...
What I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, muy interesante.
Okay, so basically, Monroe, who's the host...
Yeah.
Did we look up his name, his full name?
It's like, yeah, R. Wilson Monroe.
Okay, yeah. So he's talking to R. Wilson Monroe, and Monroe's like, welcome, Bobby Coleman, it's good to have you. You're John Crichton's nephew. Bobby's like, good to be here. Monroe says, tell me, how did you and your camera manage to get all of this remarkable footage? By the way, he says startling footage like 5 times.
Yeah,
these startling videotapes.
Yeah. That's more fear-mongering, though.
Bobby says, well, when my uncle got back to Earth, my mom's Uncle John's older sister.
My mom is Uncle John's older sister.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So he's saying that he is his nephew.
Yeah.
Did he say cousin earlier?
I don't know.
He definitely said no, this episode retcons it. Every time he does it in this episode, it's nephew. I promise you he said cousin in the previous episode.
In the previous
100% sure. Because the background info points it out as well. But that's just like it's like a silly retcon. He's related to John by blood, is what we're getting at. Ooh. Maybe it's in like the trivia.
Maybe they have another sibling.
Oh, Susan?
Elder sister of John, Olivia Crichton.
I thought I saw the son of John, or the daughter of John. I was like, what?
Okay, so the Farscape Encyclopedia Project is saying that there's a third sibling, that there's a Susan Crichton, and Bobby is Susan's son.
So the cousin thing has been retconned out. That's fine.
I guess. Yeah, I don't know.
Because I think it was like a one-off line in Terra Firma anyways. But, so Bobby is in that scene. But getting back to this thing that we were talking about. And he's like, shoot me and Aaron. And then she says, I would shoot you. And then he like 100% hover hands Aaron. He's like, hey, it's me and my friend Aaron. People can't see what I'm doing, but like, look, you know, if you know what a hover hand is, like he's not touching her. He's just got his arm out. He's an awkward teen. That was a great touch. Someone definitely did that intentionally. Dargo was on Letterman, which I would have killed to see.
That was a really funny moment to me because Dargo was saying something kind of scary, and then a talking head was like, but close your eyes, he's just like you and me. And I really did close my eyes. Yeah. And then there was the line of like, I was on Letterman, I thought they were laughing with me. Very funny. Yeah, to like close your eyes and hear that line.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, Dargo being on Letterman, I would love to have seen that. Apparently there was a crap ton of deleted scenes in this episode. Chiana ate lipstick. Rigel said, I'm sick of this popcorn. That's one of the sad parts also in the on-ship scenes, is basically what's happening is Sikozu is going through because they're still disguised, so she just goes through like every Scaran database and communicator and like possible channel of talking to other people, and it's like, hey, anyone know Katratzi? And no one tells her.
Yeah.
And she's like, I give up. I've been trying. You can try, Aaron, or Chiana, whatever. And they all try, and it doesn't work out. And it's like, no, obviously no one would say it because it's a secret. You're wasting your time. But John keeps telling him to keep trying until he finally figures out. Because he's saying, I've heard it from you saying it to me. It makes perfect sense to me that you said it. Where did you say it? Where did you say it? Why did you? He like threatens her and like throws her against the wall.
Throws her around, pulls a gun on her. Like, really scary. Especially in the light of something that the show's finally saying that we kind of were figuring out or could have known. Which is that scene where John is on the stairs and he's being filmed by Bobby. By the way, great framing. The posts on the stairs have like a heart shape. And his head would be in the heart shape at times. So even in this, like, so I guess that speaks to it was probably a cinematographer doing the shooting because it was like really thematic.
Yeah.
But one of the commentators is like, based on this and him saying like he's just waiting for something to happen, he has PTSD.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Which he does. Oh yeah, he does.
Yeah.
But that's like seeing it manifest is like real. Yeah.
Yeah.
Real significant. And he pulls a gun on her and is like, why do you know Katratzi? And she says, I absolutely don't. And then he is seeing her singing and holding up a plate. It's such a corny looking thing, or just like she's singing. It's kind of cute. And then she holds it up and he realizes that it looks like when she was Starkozu. And he goes, oh. And also when he was looking at Aaron in the interviews, she kept looking at him in the interview and saying Katratzi is a Scaran base. It's hidden for this, and this reason. And she keeps repeating that. He goes, oh, wait a minute. Everything I'm remembering right now, and the reason that this documentary keeps clicking certain things in my brain is because I was in an unrealized reality where I learned about Katratzi from you, Starkozu. And now I know at least where to start looking.
Right.
She's like, okay, good progress.
Then he goes to Scorpius, and he's like, saddle up, baby.
That's such a good... I fell in love that moment, because it's just like, no more differences. We have our differences. Scorpius, I need you.
Yeah, I don't care. You can have wormholes.
You can have them.
Yeah, whoopsie.
I'm going to give you wormholes. You have to tell me where Aaron is.
And the whole time Scorpius is sitting there trying not to have the biggest smile on his face.
Like, and externally, he's like, oh, go on. Internally, he's like, ah! He's like, there's like a conga line in his head. Like, this is the best day. I'm going to text Braca later. He's so happy. Yeah, that's where the episode ends. And it's pretty bonkers.
Yeah.
Couple stray notes I have also. We talked about that sex scene where Chiana is asking Bobby. I like that scene too. That's another, like, making us think as humans, like, why our laws are the way they are. She's like, why can't humans have sex at your age? And he's like, because my mom would get mad.
And it's illegal.
And it's illegal. And she's like, why is it illegal? And I loved that moment because thinking about, like, as soon as Chiana hears the term sex is illegal, it immediately, like, triggers something in the back of her brain, like, wait, it's same for her, because they're, like, sterile or whatever. And that's been her whole life, but it's not because of her age. It's because of the way that society works. So in a way, limiting the age of consent in this country or whatever is like similar to like, oh, you're just holding people down from what is entirely natural and healthy for them to do.
Right. And that is like the kind of Martian perspective.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take into account that there are
biological reasons why people should
we're not advocating from Chiana's perspective, but it adds a new voice to the debate that no human being is going to add.
I think it more specifically, the part that's like what they're advocating for is like, it's dumb that it's a hard number, or it's just like, why is it 18?
Yeah.
Like it's just because sex as a concept is so fluid. But, like, obviously, no. We're not saying that Bobby should be 13 and banging out because it's not healthy or biologically safe. I thought that was good, though. And then everyone on the talking heads is like, is she propositioning him? Blah, blah, blah.
Well, most of them were actually like, oh, she's so innocent.
Yeah.
Like,
and
isn't
then
this silly?
Right. And then one of them is like, this is unacceptable.
Yeah, I'm the bishop again. Blah.
And then someone's like, the last one is some guy goes, oh, come on. You get more juice from Dawson's Creek. You get more juice from Dawson's Creek is an amazing line. It's just, that's everything. There's the, and then Dargo's in a new captain's outfit. That was the other comment I had at the end. Because, what's it called? John says, hey, pilot, I need you to do something. Like, I need you to plot a course for this thing. And then pilot goes, I can't do that. We got to turn it over to the boss.
Yep.
And then Dargo's like, well, me?
John, what are you doing, John?
Is this one of your wormhole things again? He's like, no, I got it this time. I got it. He's like, all right, sounds good. He even has Dargo's support, as he always should. And then, the post-credit scene where it's like, next time on Alien
this
Encounters.
Crazy stuff happened.
Yeah.
It was probably the aliens.
Right, exactly. Don't eat, what is it? No saturated fats, no sugar.
Oh, yeah, Rigel's whole thing of, like, loving candy.
I love sugar because it's illegal, or it's used as a poison in my world. And I love bad things. And then they're like, this guy ruled 600 billion people. He's clearly got doing something. I love and hate that line. Like, he ruled 600 billion people, so he must be doing something right. Like, you don't know how ruling shit works. And then the guy who saw them in the 80s is like, I'm fit. And the other guy's talking, he's like, vegetables, fruits, no saturated fats, eat healthy, be like me, I'm pretty fit. Which he's like, fine.
He's slim. I think he said he was slim.
Yeah, he's got a medium build. But that was the last silly thing that I remembered. Weird episode. Also, Rigel said that the humans are great because they have a lot of manual labor, which sad face.
Thanks, Rigel.
Thanks, buddy.
Definitely one of the best episodes of the show.
Oh my god, for sure. We got nothing but bangers coming up. Oh, that's a lot of background info.
There's a lot of background info, so let's dive right into it.
Sploosh.
Aaron and Naranti only appear in the alien visitation segments of this episode. Everybody else appears.
I was like, where were they? Aaron's not there. Naranti's sleeping.
It was near the end of production of this episode that cast and crew were informed of the series cancellation, the actual season finale having been filmed earlier.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
This was filmed after the season
finale?
This is,
for some, you're going to keep reading stuff that's going to say what I'm about to say, but this was, for a lot of them, the last thing that they filmed.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Whoa. Yeah. The fan-based movement to save the series was already underway by the time the final scenes were shot. While most of the cast were made aware of the cancellation immediately, Lonnie Tupu was en route to a sci-fi convention in the US at the time and didn't hear about the cancellation until a fan told him about it.
Ooh.
The news came down with only a couple of shooting days left. During the weekend in between, Claudia Black had taken snowboarding lessons. Great. What? Who cares?
The show got canceled.
Wow. So that's crazy.
So keep going, yeah.
The scene between John and Olivia Crichton on Moya was the final one to be filmed during the series run, and was filmed in September 2002. It took 4 takes. The one that was like shot from in between the slats.
Yeah, it's the last shot of the show. I can't look into that stuff too much because they clearly, they wrote that to not be the last shot.
Yeah.
But that's the last time that John Crichton was John Crichton until Peacekeeper Wars.
It was really good, too.
Yeah.
His acting was really good in that
That's
scene.
what I'm saying. All of the acting, when it's really good in this episode, you're going to realize is when that was that actor's last scene. And they were like, I'm going to give it 200%.
Wow.
That's incredible to me.
Yeah. The scene with Chiana in the bathroom was Gigi Edgley's final scene. Okay, wow, yeah.
That's what I was saying earlier. I was like, she's giving
Chiana,
it everything.
Knowing this, she tried to do as many different things as she could and make it the best possible Chiana scene in the series. I think it was.
That gives a different perspective on the look she gives also, because it's like, oh, this is it. This look is my last thing I can do.
It's the last Chiana moment.
Absolutely. And it's a good one.
Holy shit. Claudia Black's final scene was the one in the kitchen in which she makes a sandwich while talking to Bobby. Don't remember that scene.
I think she makes she puts way too much tomatoes in it. That's what I remember.
Oh, yeah. I don't remember what they talk about, but...
probably
something about being a soldier. Or
yeah.
The episode took a long time to film, with scenes with Bobby at Jack Crichton's house being filmed June 24th, 2002, scenes in Crichton's cell in the corridors being shot July 23rd, 2002, and the scenes on command on August 16th, 2002. All of the scenes on Moya were shot after the next episode, Prayer, was completed. Yeah,
so their filming order is way out of whack now, which people told us because of the cancellation. They shifted a ton of stuff.
Gotcha. Executive producer David Kemper played the mysterious Mr. X, while creator Brian Henson played Professor Edmund Johnson.
Mr. X is the one who was like, I'm a government agent, and he's shadowed face.
Yeah.
I don't remember who Edmund Johnston is. I really wish I did because I love Brian
Wasn't
Henson.
he the Stanford guy that you named? With the cool earring?
With the cool earring? I didn't name him. The really annoying, mean one? Is that Brian Henson?
What did you call me at the beginning of the episode? Didn't you say that name?
I probably... No, I called you the nice guy. I called you my favorite guy. The, cool, bald one.
No, you called me the name of the Stanford guy. Because that's where I went to school.
Oh, God.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Let's see. The script for the episode was 116 pages long. Normally, they're closer to 58 pages long. As a result, the episode has a number of deleted and extended takes, mostly involving Bobby's videotapes, many of which are included as extras on the DVD release. That's awesome. The final scene filmed began on take 33, in recognition of Anthony Simcoe's often stated, take 2 is for dickheads, but take 33, Brando.
I love hearing Anthony Simcoe in my head say that.
I don't get it.
If you do it in one take, then you're amateur. You need multiple takes to do it right, like Marlon Brando.
I see. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
This episode shakes up the timeline suggested by Terra Firma by establishing that the Moya crew were on Earth for much longer than suggested in the earlier episodes. Weeks, certainly, and possibly even months, during which time several of them toured at least South America, and both Aaron and Dargo appeared on television.
If you had to take aliens to Earth, and you could only you had a month, where would you take them? A whole planet.
I had a month?
Yeah. I know they were more than a month. Let's say you had a month, 2 months.
I'd take them to...
I never realized how much I want to think about this question.
New York City.
Yeah.
For one.
Yeah.
To see how that goes.
Yeah. That's kind of this country.
I'd take them to, the Grand Canyon.
It's 2 in the U.S. You...
I know. I'm about to expand outside of the U.S. We'd go to New Zealand.
All right.
Tokyo.
Konnichiwa.
Okay.
Okay. I love all people.
Egypt.
Marhaba. Hey!
And then, Iceland.
Yeah. Hello. I don't know what Icelanders sound like.
Hello.
Yeah, those all... Iceland, yeah, Iceland's very... hey, nature's beautiful, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Egypt is look what we made. And then Earth is look...
Right.
Earth. I mean the U.S. Wow, that's something. The U.S. is look what we did. For better or for worse.
Well, yeah, my thinking is New York and Tokyo are look what we did.
Yeah.
And then the Grand Canyon is look what the Earth did.
Yeah.
And then Egypt is look what we did, but also it's different environment.
Yeah.
And then New Zealand and Iceland isn't nature great?
Yeah. I like that.
In addition, the episode establishes... where would you take aliens? I'm sorry.
Oh, hi. The same. I don't have to answer this question. Waka waka. This episode's going long. That's why I'm all right. Somewhere in the Middle East, because it's hey, look what happens when society goes wrong and we don't listen to each other. Antarctica, to be here's where we can't go and why we can't go there. Oh. I'm trying to pick different answers than you also, intentionally. Sure. Here is, let's pick a place in the U.S. Or no, here's Sao Paulo, Brazil, where it's just here's the things that humans like. Here's excess and culture and religion and everything. It's a very culturally diverse place. And then Italy, to just be here's the broadest span of human history that I can show you. Here's a lot of it.
Huh.
The Colosseum and that stuff.
Yeah. Cool.
We go back a long way.
That's a cool question. I want to hear other people's answers to that question.
Yeah, do it.
Where would you take the aliens? In addition, the episode establishes that at least 6 months have passed since the Earth visit, or at least 6 months since Aaron's interview took place.
Yes.
Yeah. It is not explained how Moya, located on the other side of the galaxy, is able to receive a current television broadcast from Earth. Presumably, it must have come through the wormhole, even though Moya has since starburst away from the wormhole's location. Yeah.
Like we said.
Good question, but who knows?
Who cares?
It is not explained how the majority of the people on Earth would understand the language of Moya's crew in the footage without translator microbes, since they weren't known to have been distributed to the general public, or subtitles. It's true, there weren't subtitles.
Right.
It appears there's more than one TV on board Moya, as Chiana and Rigel are seen watching Alien Visitation apparently at the same time and in a different location than Crichton. Crichton also accuses Chiana of watching too much TV, and she agrees.
Well, yeah, because in the episode for 2 seconds ago last week,
there was another TV.
Aaron and John were watching TV, and they're oh, I love TV.
The interviews and video footage take place concurrently with Terra Firma and establish some of the activities undertaken by the Moya crew during their visit. Conspicuous by his absence in this episode is Jack Crichton. That's true.
Yeah.
He doesn't have anything
really
to
weird.
say. Bobby Goldman Is his name Bobby Goldman?
Excuse me.
And I've been reading Coleman from far away.
Farscape away.
Farscape away. No, it's Bobby Coleman. There's just a typo on the wiki.
Coleman's not a word.
Oh,
sorry, all the
there's a piece of dirt on my screen. It's just Coleman. Bobby Coleman's relation to the Crichton family is retconned in this episode. In Terra Firma, he was previously stated to be John's cousin by both Dargo and John himself. In this episode, he's stated to be John's nephew. I always thought he was his nephew, even though I guess they said cousin. So I didn't even notice. Nephew made way more sense to me.
I was right. Alan, did you just dab on a podcast?
Alan just dabbed on a podcast. Oh, what you gonna do?
And that was all the background info. Next up, it's time for us to read the summary of the next episode on the Farscape Encyclopedia Project, because other websites are bad.
This is sort of a shorter one than the past few have been, just to prime people. The next episode we're only watching one episode next week.
Why is that, Magellan?
Well, we're going to have a guest.
A guest episode! A guest episode.
People at home could probably guess.
Decode who it is.
Yeah, but we're going to have a guest. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
So just watching one episode for next week. It is Season 4, Episode 18, Prayer. John and Scorpius visit the unrealized Moya for information on Katratzi, while Aaron's son is tortured and interrogated by her Scaran captors. Cool, so we do see Aaron. And it is kind of like KOTOR, where you see little cutscenes of Basilishan being tortured by Darth Malak.
There's a thing I need to remember to bring up during this episode. Prayer is going to be important for me to talk about at some point. Katratzi. And also, I like that the takeaway that John gets from all of that stuff was we need to go to another unrealized reality. Because if it was just, I need to find Aaron for this reason, and I know what Katratzi is, then that's like not a good payoff. But if he's going to go look at another unrealized reality, then that's very cool.
That's pretty fly, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're watching Prayer next week. Week after that, we're watching all 3 parts of the We're So Screwed trilogy.
We are so screwed recording that episode.
And then after that, we're watching the finale, which is called Bad Timing.
I think so.
So 3 episodes of the TV show. Of
ScapeChatz
watching the TV show.
Yes.
Then we do a Season 4 recap, get into Peacekeeper Wars.
Very exciting.
Then a big series recap, and then we'll, screw around for a little while.
Yeah, we'll see where we go from there.
Yeah.
The future is bright and exciting. Yes. And now it's time for plugs. You can email ScapeChatz at scapechats@gmail.com. You can also tweet at us at ScapeChatz. Follow us on Tumblr, scapechats.tumblr.com. And we can be found every week at reddit.com/r/Farscape, where we do a weekly thread. We've been kind of off with publishing schedules lately, but like when you see an episode on there and follow the Twitter account for updates, then that's when you can jump in those comments and get in the Moyabag. We love it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're still aiming to have one a week.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes things throw us off.
Yeah, and the day of the week is shifting all the time. Mm-hmm. It's like the show. The cast is shifting all the time.
But we're going to try to solidify it and figure it out.
Yeah, for sharks. I can be found at Twitter at twitter.com/Alan Ibrahim, spelled ALLEN IBRAHIM. Magellan?
You can find me on Twitter at Justafluke. That's JUSTAPFLUKE.
Beautiful. Magnificent. Wonderful. This has been ScapeChatz, finding our way home.